Come on. You're live.
All right, guys, welcome to this Thursday night's edition of the Livewell here at Fish, North Georgia. We are so glad you could join us tonight. Got a fantastic episode. You guys asked for it. Both of my guests tonight, I had a lot of people say, hey, you need to get these guys back on. And so I've got them here. We're going to talk about the Touring Anglers Association tournament that happened on Lake Lanier just a couple weeks ago. Was it a couple of weeks? It was last week.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. 2 weeks ago. And we're going to go over it with them and kind of get their perspective from an angler's point of view about the tournament. And then we will just kind of lead into wherever your guys' comments and questions lead us. But let's take care of some business first. Got to thank our fine sponsors. And we're going to start off with Sonar Pros, Trent Palmer and the guys. Trent actually fished this tournament as well. But if you want your electronics installed by the absolute best, you got to go to Sonar Pros, 770-530-4505, by appointment only. All right, and then the next, of course, we got what I think is the best bass guide on Lake Lanier right now. If you want to go catch the monsters, you need to go with Kevin Underwood and Lipsticker Fishing. We see it every time on our group page. He's posted all the time on his page, Facebook. You see what he's put his clients on. If you want to go fishing with him, check him out either on Facebook or look up lipstickerfishing.com. And next, of course, right here, Evolve Rod Sleeves. Right there, absolutely the best rod sleeve on the market. It floats. It's got the lanyard protective tip, and you will not get your hooks into it when you're putting all your rods together. I actually sold a gentleman 12 of them the other day. He liked them so much, he's going to come back and get more. So Evolve, check them out at evolvefishing.com or come up here to Fish North Georgia, and I will hook you up with those. If you're in the kayak game, paddle sports, just off 369 on Lake Lanier, Festive Water Paddle Sports. Nathan and the guys over there will get you set up for whatever application you want. Check them out at festivewaters.com. And, of course, right here in front, you can see this. Pull that back. Let me hold one of these up right here. The Money Saver Lure Retriever. Guys, it's absolutely, we all get our crankbaits hung up. You guys with the A-rigs, all that stuff. We know how the timber is in Lake Lanier and all our surrounding lakes. The Money Saver Lure Retriever will help you get those back. It's one of the best plug knockers on the market. So come up here to Fish North Georgia. I got all the colors. And then, of course, we've got now right behind me over my shoulder, Turner Tire. If you guys are in Jasper, Georgia, needing tires for your vehicle, Brock and the family will set you up. Great local guys, great local family business. 706-253-3339. Tell them Fish North Georgia sent you. And, of course, my favorite, Etowah Mead Beer and Wine. You can see it right here in front. Tonight we're doing the Psycho Blonde, but I got it in my Waypoint TV koozie right there. So, again, if you're into the mead or you're interested, go on their website, EtowahMeadery.com, and you can actually have it shipped to you, or just go up to Dahlonega and check it all out yourself. It's a great atmosphere. And tell them guys at Fish North Georgia sent you. So anyway, got a couple of people in the comment section already, Luke and Cam, and, of course, Kevin. Thank you for the wings. This is how good of a man Kevin Thornton is. He's not here tonight, and he had someone actually deliver us our pregame meal tonight. So we appreciate you. Now, let me go ahead and introduce my guests. All right. You guys know them. Two of the more popular guests I've had on the Livewell here in recent memory. To my left, the one and only Mr. Paul Driskell, right there in all his glory with that old Zoom hat he's making famous. And to my right, Brooks Anderson. Got an up-and-comer right here, Mr. Cool, Calm, and Collective is what I like to say. Look at that. He's got his game face on already. I promise you we're going to make him smile at some point tonight. Both of these guys were amongst, I would say, a handful of locals that actually fished the Touring Anglers Association tournament. And if you don't know what that is, which I think everybody by now does, it was the no forward-facing, no 360, no previous waypoint tournament that was held on Lake Lanier a couple weeks ago by Alan Brooks and his fine staff. It was absolutely one of the better events I've been to, and actually the results were kind of shocking. And I think as we talk tonight, and I get these gentlemen's perspective, you're going to kind of see that we didn't know how this tournament was going to play out. And I can tell you, it did not play out the way I thought it was going to play out. So we're going to jump right in. And guys, again, if you got any questions or comments, make sure you put them over there in the comment section for these two gentlemen. And also, too, if it's just a general fishing, let's do that as well, because these guys both know what's going on these local waters, and we'll try to help you out the best we can. Brad Silvers, bring the juice. So we're going to try to do that tonight. So we're going to defer to our elders, and I'm going to let Mr. Driskell start right there, which he ain't that much older than me. But, Paul, we talked about this tournament going in. I knew from the get-go you were one of the locals that were going to jump into this, and just kind of give me a general feeling. I know it, but I want everybody else out there to know it. What you felt like, going into the tournament, and what you kind of expected before you actually hit the water.
I kind of expected, a 100 boat field, pay 25 places. Felt like that was doable. Wasn't going to donate my money. As we all know, it paid 12. It couldn't have happened at a worser time for a fisherman like me. I don't even have power poles on my boat. I know how to bed fish. I don't mind doing it. I like doing it. But I never dreamed they would hold out for 2 days. So in saying that, I knew it was going to be an uphill climb, and just missed it. But you got to have donators to have a tournament, and I was one of them.
Well, I know. So it's funny, though. You and I were talking, and guys, listen, if you're ever in the Marblehead area on a night that we have one of these shows, you definitely need to come up here, because you get a lot of this juice and a lot of talk beforehand that you might not get on the show. And one of the things we talked about going in, there were no fish on the bed the week before, or very few on Lanier. And I don't know, did you expect the bed game to play such a pivotal role in it?
I didn't think it would. I knew it would, because I knew people come from out of town was going to rely on it. Never dreamed it would hold up 2 days.
Right.
And it held up strong. So when you dug yourself a hole on day one, it was, you thought, well, maintain, don't catch 14 or 15 pounds. Anything over 16 you can maintain. And day two, you'll come back and you'll be 10th, 11th, somewhere around there, make the cut, and then you can swing for the fence. But that just wasn't the case. I wasn't embarrassed. I didn't make the cut because I have nothing to prove to anybody but my wife, my kids. So
that's right.
Other than them, I was disappointed for them. I wanted to fish 3 days.
Yeah,
probably a good thing I didn't have to, because the wind blowed even harder on day 3. But
well, don't sell yourself short. I mean, like I said,
no, I had 2 good days.
You did. You had 2 good days,
good days.
And you only missed the cut by how many?
8 ounces.
8 ounces to miss the
cut. It was a tight field. I know somebody missed it by less than a drop of water.
I know. Don't sell yourself short. Now we're going to go back to Driskell here in a second, but I want to jump right here to Brooks as we get, and here's why I wanted Brooks to come on. A lot of people, when they're talking about forward-facing sonar, all they ever say is this younger generation. That's all they know how to do. And Brooks was on a few weeks prior to this, and he said then and there, he grew up fishing, the old-fashioned way. You didn't even have forward-facing sonar till you got into college. So you had some, idea about what was going to go on. But tell me your perspective going in, what you thought would actually play out, and then we'll get into what actually did play out. What did you think was going to happen?
Gotcha. I definitely kind of was thinking the spotted bass were going to play a lot more than they did, and Paul touched on that with the giant wave of largemouth. And I ran down the lake in the right around period, and I saw some bed fish, but I didn't see anything crazy. But I obviously didn't put myself in the right areas to kind of look for them.
Right.
And with about 30 minutes left, I pulled into an area, and he touched on Sam Benson, Buddy Benson's dad. He found that same area, and it was a couple of days away from happening. But I definitely thought the spotted bass would have been a little bit better during that week, but it kind of seemed a little bit off, and they were kind of transitioning, in my opinion.
That's right. What's up, guys? Cam, a lot of anglers in the tournament learned to fish without electronics, and the outcome showed. Yeah, listen, let's be honest. You get to the pro level, you're a good angler. These guys, they dominate the local tournaments. You want a BFL. Driskell's name's in the top 5 every time you fish. It seems like if you're not winning, you're there. You guys know how to fish. So, like, when it was coming up and I saw the list of the pros and the local guys, I knew you guys were going to be able to compete with them. But we here personally thought it was going to be a spotted bass dominated tournament. Because we had fished just prior, the week or so before, and we didn't see any bedfish and did not really know. And, of course, we did not get to film day 1 of the weigh-in. But when I heard the weights and people were talking to me, there was still a lot of great spotted bass caught, but the largemouth came into play. Have you ever seen, Paul, a wave of largemouth just show up that quick, that fast on Lake Lanier?
35 years, I've not seen it. I've never seen a tournament on this lake. I don't care what time of the year, where 80% of first day was largemouth weighed in. I would be surprised if it wasn't higher than that. There was just a handful of us guys that had spots. Everybody went bed fishing. They knew what to do. They called. They just hit on it. It couldn't. The week before, the week after, it would not have happened.
So it's just perfect timing for
Perfect
bed
time
fishing.
in 3 days of that hot weather. Before the tournament, I felt like we was going to be in a little bit of trouble, but even like I said, 2 days, no way, they can't do it.
Yeah.
And they did.
And they did. So for those of you that don't know, Chris Johnston from Canada, of all places, he won it. I believe he had 24 plus on day one. Now, I don't have the actual stats in front of me. 24 plus on day one, 24 plus on day two. You know, I imagine those guys came down. They were probably hoping for a bed tournament. The first day on that Monday, you guys got to ride around, and you just kind of touched on it a little bit. What were you looking for that day? You only had, like 4 hours?
Mm-hmm.
So you got 4 hours. Just kind of tell me what exactly you were looking for.
So me personally, I was looking for 3.5, 4 pound males that were really aggressive in some of those creeks in the south end, and they were there. It just wasn't as many as I thought. And I think the bigger wave was kind of in that mid lake, a little bit further south area, but I was kind of down there towards the dam looking for them, and I found them. But with the no practice in the ride around, I still had more faith in my spotted bass fishing and all those kind of tactics, and it really just didn't plan out. I tried to stay ahead of them and where those fish should be going, but I kept catching kind of the smaller male fish. But I caught a couple of good ones each day. It wasn't quite right, and things didn't pan out exactly how I thought.
Yeah, we're gonna touch on that in a little bit too. You staying ahead, because I want to kind of get your techniques on without forward facing sonar and what you were doing. Guy B, Emil got third, and I don't think he had a largemouth, and I'm not sure he did, and that is very true. And we're going to touch on that too. The spotted bass were there for some of the guys, and so Lanier showed out when it came up to the spots, absolutely. But the first day, like you said, Paul, it seemed like a lot of largemouth. When you were riding around on day one, did you just go to familiar areas, or were you looking outside of the box?
I had a game plan. I was going to fish rock, try to catch them females close to these sandy pockets on rock. They were there.
Spots.
The spots.
Spots.
They just
Okay.
got small. I don't know if the females had backed off some, if they just got too far gone. I don't know the reason. I'm not that smart. I do know that the red-eyed males was there. They was easy to catch. Every once in a while, you'd catch a female. And like the guy said, other than Emil and Kaz, they're the only ones that seem to put something together to catch a limit of females. You know, Kaz on day one was like the rest of us. And then day 2 and 3, he put it together. Emil just hit it out of the ballpark every day. Because I don't believe if I'd have had 5 days to ride around, I could have figured out how to catch 20-pound a spot on that weekend that we fished.
You know, and the weather started playing a big part. Had a lot of rain right before it, and then we got that wind that just seemed like all 3 days were windy. Well, I wasn't there on day one.
Day one was nice.
Was it nice? Day 2 and day 3 were windy.
Day 2 was not for old people.
I'm not going to say that. You said
eligible.
that. You wasn't said. Well, still. So you go to bed Monday night. You're thinking, okay, I'm going to go after these female spotted bass. What techniques did you think were going to work? And did they work?
Yeah, they worked. I was planning on catching them on a fluke stick junior.
Throwing the old bent worm?
No, just a straight fluke stick junior on an 1/8 ounce or 3/16, depending on wind. Green pumpkin straight out of the pack. And I was going to catch them like that. I'd caught 20 the last day of practice doing it, and felt like I knew where they was headed and how I was going to catch them. And it's obvious that didn't work. I still caught plenty of fish. I
Right.
still caught close. I caught what I thought would make the cut. I thought 17 will make the top 12. Missed it by a pound.
Yeah.
Top weight, I thought 19 a day would win it. So that shows how smart I am. I missed that by a ton.
But you didn't expect all those largemouth to show up, and had those largemouth not shown
No,
up,
I did expect them to show up. I just thought one day they're going to weed through them. There's not enough of them. It's going to be in one area. They're going to be, and all the guys went to that area. So I thought, well, they're going to weed through these things in a day, and you might have one or two still catch them, but they're not going to do it 2 days. And they did, because they were scattered all the way from Shoal Creek to the blast off. It's just the biggest wave I've seen. And maybe it's because us as local guys will go catch a couple bedding fish that we found the day before, and then we get sidetracked and go back out to catching spots or whatever. Well, they stuck with it.
Yeah. I get it. It was surprising to me. It was surprising to me. All right, now same question to you. You're going to bed Monday night. You had your ride around. What were you thinking was going to work, and did it work, or did you have to do something else?
So initially, I'd kind of been fishing Hartwell the week before and got hints of a herring spawn going on there. So I was really genuinely curious if it was going on Lanier. And my first stop, I had like 16.5 pounds, which is almost everything I weighed in the first 15 minutes. And I was like, okay, things are going to plan. We're good. We got my nice limit of 3.5 pounders. I can chill out and fish the rest of the day.
Right.
And then I proceed, go down south, and kind of like what Driskell has talked about, fishing some of these rock veins, some areas next to saddles and some docks and things like that, where I thought some of these females were going to be transitioned into, but I just kept catching 2.5, 2 3/4, and they were all had red eyes and were peeing. So I was like, maybe if I just stick with this and get into one specific zone throughout the day, I'll be able to run it to a couple 3 and 4 pound spots and upgrade my bag. But that never really happened. And then in the last portion of the day, I actually ran to two of the females I had on bed. I spent probably too much time on them with bed fishing, but I almost caught one of them that would have completely changed my tournament. So I don't regret not doing it. It's just there was a couple things that slightly went wrong, but it was still a decent day one for me.
All right, so I want to jump on that because you mentioned the word shad.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I had a gentleman in the store today. He said on Allatoona and on Lanier, he is seeing shad spawning, which to me, in my limited knowledge, seems a little bit early. You had been on Hartwell. You say the shad. I think we're talking more shad, not blueback.
Right.
This gentleman thought they were blueback, but on Hartwell, you had noticed a shad spawn. So that is what you thought would translate, and evidently it did on the first spot.
Right. They're just the size wasn't kind of there, and I wasn't sure if it was going to be a shad spawn or a herring spawn. I was hoping it's a herring spawn to get to throw a lot larger baits and catch bigger quality fish when those fish are keyed in on herring. But it just kind of seemed like I don't know if they're still on small bait or if those bigger fish were just kind of already transitioning, waiting to spawn or something. But it definitely wasn't the size fish I was hoping for on those shad.
Did you see that in just one area of the lake or in several?
Primarily 2 areas, and I kind of got off it when I couldn't catch one over like 3.5.
When you saw it's just bucks.
Yeah.
It's just bucks. Did you think, Paul, that shad spawn would, play a role in it? And with all your experience on Lake Lanier, is this early for it?
Evidently not.
But not what we're used to, right?
I went to Hartwell to help a friend with his boat right before cutoff, and we seen there was some shad herring. I never seen them with my eyes. I don't know what they were, but they was on the blow through places and poles, and kind of thought it's early. I don't know. It's a little early. Usually the end of this month is when it gets going. But then when on my ride through, I went by one blow through and seen a lot of bait on top. And then I heard Emil make the comment he was going to live and die with shad. So I thought, well, he's smarter than I am, and it shows that he was.
Oh, good.
That they was. It played a big role, I believe, in 2 of our guys our local guys making the cut.
But it just seems early.
I thought it was early, but you're not going to go out there, I don't believe now, and throw a topwater or a redfin across them places and catch them. That's
Right.
when it's really going, and you don't see them coming out of the water, feeding. Every once in a while you'll see a bull, but that's about as far as that went.
Right.
And as like Brooks said, a lot of small fish. I probably caught 20 the second day. On my way down, I stopped for about an hour, and I probably caught 20, but I went below the bridge I might have had 9.5, 10 pounds.
Now you saying bridge? We talking about 369 Browns Bridge?
They
Okay,
all had to go.
Right.
I went to bed knowing I needed 18 and a half to feel comfortable and make the cuts what I thought. So I knew them fish was no good.
Right. So Jeremiah says stuff is just happening at random this year. Some things early, some things late, some things delayed. Just a lot going on. Do you think, and this is a question for me, and that both of you guys, and Brooks, I'll let you start. You guys are much better anglers than I, and I don't have the knowledge you guys have. Do you think because Lanier was down a little bit and we had a warmer winter that's just kind of throwing the fishing off just a little bit this year? Have you noticed anything like that?
I've definitely noticed he's fishing a lot more non-typical things, I guess you could say, where they're spawning early or a shad spawns way sooner than anyone would ever think to do it. But it's kind of been across the board for me from the winter until now. In the past 2 years, I've kind of tapped into some techniques and things that just should not be happening then with the forward facing and all that. Not even necessarily talking about catching them on it, but just seeing fish in areas that they really shouldn't be or doesn't make quite sense why they're there. So I definitely think there's a lot that we haven't noticed in these past couple of years without kind of seeing them in those areas. But definitely this year it's kind of been a little bit different with the spawn and the shad spawn and all that. Okay.
And again, Paul, same thing to you. You got 35 years experience or right around there on this lake. Do you think this year is kind of a little bit different, the winter and up to now compared to the past?
The winter played out, like Brooks said, forward face sonar, you learn something every day that we didn't know. But the bed fishing, it fell about on schedule. It was way bigger and a lot bigger area than I thought it would be than it's ever been. It ain't what I thought. It's just bigger than it was. It went all the way from south to north. If you looked, you found them.
And that's normally it starts at the north and just works its way south, right?
It starts, from my experience, is always around the Browns Bridge area.
Mid-Lake.
Chesapeake down to First Creek. Van's Tavern. What's the First Creek? 2 Mile? The 2 Mile area. And that area is where they really stack up the first wave. And this time it was from Blast Off to Show Creek. They weeded through them fish quickly up there around that area. But without forward facing sonar or looking, I don't know that we would have known them the baits on them blow throughs this early. So maybe they've always been there and we just never knew it because you're not, like I said, you're not seeing them blow up. You're not seeing them feed. You might see a bull.
Yeah.
But you're not seeing them. Loons is what gave it away from me. On day one on my ride around, I seen some loons feeding on a bar. And I thought, this ain't good. I wasn't expecting this. I ain't prepared to do it. I'm going to stick with my game plan. Evidently a meal and them's right. It's going better than everybody thinks. But I think you learn a lot more with the forward-facing sonar.
Yeah.
It's taught me a lot of things I never knew.
Yeah, that's interesting. Big Al. Oh, yeah. That pool scene.
Yeah.
The pool scene. That's all I got to say. Got many of us young men in trouble back in the day. So if you guys don't know what he's talking about right there, check out Fast Times at Ridgemont High, about 2/3 of the way through the movie, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Eric B. Richards, how about this? I'll let you start on this one, Paul. Could it be that the largemouth are just making a better comeback than we thought they were?
It could be. Last year, the spawn was real erratic. I mean, I don't think we had but one tournament all last spring won with bedding fish. It was just so erratic. You couldn't you could go find two and it wouldn't be none. They'd be going, they wouldn't be the next day. They didn't get hurt last year at all. So it could be they're making a comeback. I sure hope not.
You're a spotted bass guy. You like the spots better than largemouth?
Well, I love largemouth at nighttime tournaments, but spots are more willing to cooperate.
I get that. All right, Brooks, what's your thoughts on that?
I think the population is kind of almost staying the same, but like you said, in the spring, they really show themselves. And what a lot of people kind of miss is the spawn happens over a lot longer time than we think. It's just there's certain weeks, like in the tournament, that there's a massive wave that moves up.
Yeah.
And that happened to be one of those weeks where that happened. But there'll be 2 or 3 of those waves throughout the spawn period. And we happen to land on that 1 week specifically. But I think Lanier largemouth, they're pretty elusive for me. You'll catch a couple random ones cranking in the different seasons and things like that. But for the most part, until the spring, that's the only time you really see those true giants.
Okay. So a couple of comments right there above Big Al, Bassett in the South. Appreciate you guys and all you guys joining us tonight. Make sure you keep these questions and comments coming. The shads are spawning at Oconee, which I thought was a couple weeks early myself. So I know there's a Skeeter tournament down there. Them guys like that might be happy to hear that. And then 5 spotted bass right there, the last comment right there. I had 22.5 on Clark's Hill Saturday, upper end, and all my biggest fish were spawned out. Had one 6.2, smallest was 2.5, all dirt shallow. So again, I think, lake to lake, of course, across the region, across the state like that, you're going to get some differences. But dude, 22.5, that's pretty impressive. Pull up Jeremiah's comment right there. I hope so. I have noticed more largemouth bank fishing over the last couple of years, and I caught a largemouth a little under 8 pounds from Lanier maybe 2 weeks ago. They're there, and I tell you, and that's the one thing across this tournament. So day one, Chris Johnston weighed in, I believe it was 7.4?
Yeah.
7.4 largemouth, which was pretty impressive. Had 24 pounds for that day. Come in day 2 when we were there and we're watching, and of course I think he weighed in last or next, pretty close to last. Who was the angler that had the 7.9? Do you guys remember?
I don't.
Somebody weighed in a 7.9. Again, let's remember this. Big fish for this tournament was $5,000. All right, so we knew Chris had it going in. One of the anglers weighed in a 7.9, and we're sitting there talking amongst ourselves. That's a $5,000 fish. And then Chris comes back in, and he does basically a back-to-back, another 24-pound sack anchored by an 8+ largemouth, which, of course, they awarded big fish on day 2, and that was a $5,000 fish. And I felt so bad for that angler in front of him because, you weigh in 7.9, you feel good about yourself, and about 10 minutes later, somebody just rips $5,000 right from you. Littner, that's right. Daryl Strayhorn's in there, and Austin and Littner. Appreciate you guys. Man, I felt bad for him.
Who the hell is Daryl Strayhorn?
Daryl Strayhorn. Somebody named Daryl Strayhorn shows up every once in a while. I heard he could fish. And actually, Daryl and Austin Young in the comments right there, they both fished the tournament. They were some of our locals. Hey, listen, you guys represented. I don't care what the outcome was. With the erratic weather the last few years, just throwing it off across the country, it seems. And it could be. I mean, we can get political on you and say it's global warming or something like that, but I don't. We ain't going down that road. I don't. Again, guys, that's not me. That's not me. All right, listen. Derek White has made this comment 2 or 3 times, so evidently he wants me to ask you about this. All right.
And I'm sure it's something embarrassing.
Paul, you remember that night I fished that light you was on? That was before forward-facing sonar. Rip his ass if you need to.
Dude, I was fishing, just playing around, looking for some lights. And I'm there fishing. There comes some jackass. He's going to pull right in there on me. Right it. I mean, can't see, I just see the boat coming.
Right.
And then I see, I hear him and I know who it is.
You heard that voice.
Yeah. And he said, you catch any? I said, no. I said, they're up there, but I can't catch them. He said, move. And he literally made one cast. He caught one, maybe 5. And he made another cast, caught one, maybe 4. So I just left. I didn't need that shit.
Hey, listen, I've been there, brother. I know that.
I'd left too.
I have. All right, pull up Brad Silvers. He actually has a legitimate question here. I'll tell you what, young man, I'm going to give you this one. Let you start it. Can y'all give me a detailed breakdown of where this transition from pre-spawn to spawn is typically found? I am just trying to learn.
Okay, so the transition from the winter to the spawn, they really stop off on a lot of humps, secondary points, things like that. But as far as the spawn goes, they will spawn on the metal poles of docks and sandy saddles, clay banks, a lot of times in rock as well. So it's almost limitless where they actually spawn. It's just kind of finding a good group of them and following them from, say, the winter as they make a push a little bit shallower into those areas. And a lot of these fish, they do spawn main lake. So when I say secondary points, it may be one on the main lake. It just may have a shallower zone kind of adjacent to it almost.
Right.
But
okay. All right, Paul, same thing to you. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying, we talked about before the show, and again, you guys need to come up here. The spawn goes, it's not a 1 week thing. There's waves and waves and waves. So there's always going to be, even if you've got that one wave that's on bed right now, there's still fish in transition. I mean, you'd agree with that, Brooks, right? So, maybe you can answer that question. What's kind of a detailed breakdown where this transition from pre-spawn to spawn happens? And say it in your own words, buddy, just however you want to say it.
It all depends. I mean, like main lake fish, a lot of them's going to go, they'll spawn on a 10-foot hump, on around some stumps, rock, anything hard. But then mostly, if you want to just look for them, probably sandy pockets. You can just look for dark green spotted bass. I'm no largemouth expert by no means, and I ain't evidently in a spot.
Oh, would you hush?
But spots, you can just look for a green hole in the sand. Sand will be kind of white around. You'll just see a light lime green hole, and you can throw something in there, and you'll see it's usually going to be a spot. So any sandy pocket, they'll go to. But like Brooks says, they can be on dock poles, the back poles. They can be on the walkways. They're usually going to be on the edge because they ain't going to bed in shade.
Really?
I've never seen any fish really bed in total shade. They're usually going to be close to the sun on the edge.
Okay, that makes sense. So Daryl Strayhorn said that he's the same has-been as Paul Driskell.
It's that same one. Better a has been than a never was.
That's right. 2 peas in a pod right there. Harold Grizzle, pull that comment up. Harold, I agree with you right here. They all did a hell of a job. I think every local that jumped in knowing that they were going to be pros, first of all, these guys jumped in and stayed in. And that is a knock on some of you guys that said you were going to, and then all of a sudden didn't, which made things a little bit difficult. And, of course, you were talking about the odds. If we'd had 100 boats, there's some things, and you guys kind of blew your shot with it. But these guys put the money where their mouth is, jumped in there, and the results are what they were. I think they all did Lake Lanier proud because we all know we got the hammers around here. So congratulations to all the guys. Absolutely. And that's the thing. I'm sitting here knowing that, number one, I would have gotten murdered in this tournament. And so watching the weigh-ins, watching you guys, I thought it was really cool, though, while we were covenant, to watch you guys walk up with your fish. Didn't matter how much you had, but just walking up there. So here comes Paul, and then here comes a pro, and there's Brooks, and then there's a pro. So you guys were rubbing elbows with some hellacious anglers from across the country. How did that make you feel? I know you fished with them, but right now,
it was fun.
Mm-hmm.
I have no regrets. People spend $5,000 to go on a vacation for 3 or 4 days. I got to hang out with buddies I don't get to see,
Mm-hmm.
Andy Morgans and them, and they're 99% of them just great guys. And Worldwide Watson, I'd never,
good boy, he's a mouth, ain't he?
I'd never got to really talk to him, and that was worth $2,500 in itself.
That's right.
So
That's
in
right.
saying that, I paid early. Told the man I was going to do it, and you're only as good as your word.
That's right.
It's been very easily to say, you didn't have the boats, I'm getting out. If I had to do over with again tomorrow, I would do the same. That was a great, fun tournament. I don't regret anything that I did. I fished clean. it was meant to be what it was meant to be.
Well, that's why I have the utmost respect for you. I like the way you say it, but you were there. And Watson, though, we got to interview him. That guy's a hoot. I'm listening. I'm working behind the scenes on getting him, getting Williams. I'm working on Cifuentes, and I'm also working with a couple guys that couldn't fish it, like Welcher and them. A lot of great personalities there. William Fletcher, who fishes the NPFL, talked to him for the first time, and he's a Georgia boy. He's going to come on the show as well. So we got a lot of good guests that are coming up. And I'll go ahead right now and tell you next Thursday night, he keeps referencing Emil Wagner and Kaz Anderson will be in-house, and we're going to be doing this again, and we're going to get 2 more different perspectives on this tournament.
That's the winner division.
Nah, listen, you're all winners. You're all winners. All right, Brooks, you're up there rubbing elbows with the big dogs.
Yeah,
guys with a lot of companies on their jerseys. Tell me how it felt from – how old are you again?
21.
21. Okay, I was going to give you 22. 21. As a 21-year-old, how did it feel to be walking across the stage with the likes of Gussie and guys like that?
So these are guys that I've grown up watching on TV, and that's kind of almost the reason I signed up for this tournament is they're coming to my home lake, and just to fish a tournament with them was almost an experience I couldn't pass up. And it was – I wish I would have called them a little better, but meeting those guys and just some of the networking aspects of that, it was something I'd love to do again. I'm really glad I kept my money in it, like he said.
Yeah, I'm glad you did it because I remember, guys, you might not know the story, and I'm going to repeat it just in case. He had asked his dad if he could fish this tournament, and you had money already allocated for the Opens next year. And your dad's Toyotas. Yeah, Toyotas. And you said, well, if I go fish a BFL and I win it, can I put the money towards this? And dang, if you didn't go win the BFL. So you had a good streak going up to it, and then you got to fish against some of the people like you said that you've grown up watching.
Yeah, it was an awesome experience just to launch next to those guys and run down the lake. And they went all the way south, which shocked me, but it was awesome for sure.
I'm proud of you. I like that. Got a serious question up there from Clarence Stowers, right there. Why was so many fish on bed behind those marinas? Did either one of you guys fish behind the marinas? Did you? You shaking your head?
Yeah, I typically do that, but in a tournament, you got to be smart about it. And if I were to get to practice and know that idle's worth it behind some of these longer marinas, I would have probably been more apt to do it. But just not knowing if those fish were going to be pulled up in there, I only looked in 1 or 2.
Yeah, marina, again, this is coming from somebody inexperienced like me. Generally you got a lot of really deep water, and then boom, you got a little shallow section. So in listening to kind of what you were saying, when you were answering that question earlier about kind of the sandy flats and everything, marinas don't exactly fit into that.
Well, they're protected too. Protected from weather, wind, boat traffic. They're just protected places. You find them there, like Brooke said, is it worth the idle? You'll eat so much time in a tournament getting to them fish. They got the buoys way out. It's a long idle, but the fish was stacked in them. I mean, stacked in the marinas, in the banks. You couldn't go in one that you didn't see somebody idling in or out. There was a lot of bedding fish.
Okay. Got to say hello to my baby Tatum right there. Hey, baby, if I don't when I go home. You got a girlfriend?
I do.
Oh, man. All right, this one's off the market right here, babe. All right, anyway, Brian Marcuson. I like this comment right there, middle of the road, right there. How could anybody not like this man? Humble, yet he will tell it like it is.
We're talking about Brooks.
Sheesh, I think he's talking about you too. Both of these guys. Listen, Brian, I tell you what, we've had a lot of guys, a lot of great guys come on the show, and these two are actually a couple of my favorite. Paul he's got all the experience and everything, and Brooks is just, I can tell he's focused and serious, but he gives a lot of good tips when he's been on here, and he's a competitor, so I love it. Jeremiah Giles, right there. This is interesting. A lot of the biggest fish spawn there because they can bed and then immediately pull off into deeper water. Everything they need is in one area. And he's talking about the marinas.
Correct.
Yeah.
A lot of them fish, that's their home. I don't think they ever leave.
Okay. Yeah.
Day 2, I literally lived in Lamar and Port Royal because I couldn't stand in the wind. I lived there for probably 7 out of our 8.5-hour day.
Derek O's got the next question. And also, too, hey, Tim,
Yes,
back there, put the camera on your beautiful face. Look at that haircut, guys, and them sunglasses. Look at
Nice.
them, look
Yeah,
at them lines.
That eclipse was rough. Let me tell you. I was fishing that day.
Hey, did you get Kevin's question of the week?
I do have it back
Okay,
there.
so yeah, in about 20 minutes, we're going to do the question of the week. And since we're talking about herring spawn, and it's coming, I'm going to give the winner of the question tonight. I'm going to give you a Spro Sashimi 125 and a natural herring. So that's coming up for the winner. Let's see. Derek O right there. He did have a question. Let's pull that one up right here. Do y'all think most of the guys were spread out, or were you all around each other a lot? Paul, I know you and I talked about this a little bit before the show, so I'm going to let you answer that one first.
The first day, I believe 80% of the field was in a 6 mile radius. After that, I think they had picked through them and they pretty much spread out. I know Brooks was down south. He said he's seen some down there and a couple more. I know some guys stayed up north, but the middle part of the Browns Bridge, 3 miles either way, mostly below, was full of the 47 boats. 30 of them had to be in that area because I've seen them all day.
All day. All right, what about you, Brooks?
Definitely a lot more guys went further south than I expected, and some of those kind of popular areas that I didn't think I would have myself, but I wasn't expecting that many people to be there. But I was kind of jumping around fishing for spots more so the majority of the tournaments. I didn't personally bump heads with a lot of guys except for those few instances where I did go in the spawning pockets, and they were on them for sure.
Now, was that the same on day 2 for you?
Yes, sir.
Same thing?
Yeah, I kind of had the similar mindset as Paul, where I was like, hey, if I go catch 19, 20 pounds, which sounds crazy, but I mean, it's not crazy nowadays on Lanier.
Right.
I felt like fishing my strings, that was kind of going to be stronger than me going to look at them, which I love sight fishing, but I wasn't expecting the explode of them to pull up.
That's right. Pull up Chris Taylor's comment right there. Paul Driskell will always be a legend. Well, he's really blowing that smoke up your butt right there.
He's wanting a pressure wash.
He's wanting a pressure washing job. Along with several others around Lanier, the guys that paid their money to fish it, it wouldn't matter if they had no fish. I have 100% respect for them fishing in that field. And that's
Absolutely.
exactly the way Tim and I think, Kim, all of us, all the guys that were there, and even the guys running the cameras and all that, that's how we felt. We thought it was great. I got a serious question from Brad Silvers right here. What would your favorite baits be for catching pre-spawn / spawning fish at night, not on docks?
Better ask Brooks.
Oh, good grief. Listen, I mean, sir, okay, we'll start with you, Brooks.
Well,
Drop some juice right here.
personally, this is not my question because I don't fish at night.
Okay.
But yeah,
If you had to, if we were going to Lanier right now, and I said, hey, let's catch some fish tonight, pre-spawn, spawn.
All right, I'll tell him.
You gonna tell him?
he's got
Well, tell him, Paul. Drop it, baby.
A 1 ounce spinner bait, 3/4 ounce spinner bait, any rock, shallow bridge area, you can catch them with a 1 ounce spinner bait, maybe a number 5 willow leaf and a gold and a small Colorado. It can be, you want to use instead of a black or a purple or something, I believe you'd want to use a white chartreuse.
I'm getting okay. When you were answering that question,
3.8 Kitech tail on it.
with a 3/8 Kitech tail, how about it? Do you use first of all, do you use one of them little stinger hooks on the back of your spinner baits?
No,
No.
they're big enough, they're going to eat it.
They're big enough, they're going to eat it. While you were answering that, here's what was going through my mind, because I've asked this question to a lot of guys. Why is it that during the summertime, the amount of black nighttime colored spinner baits just jumps through the roof when shad don't change colors?
Ask Mitchell Bowles, you'll throw a sandworm at night. He'll say, bait don't change colors. Why would you? I'm going to throw a black and purple nonstop.
Is there any reason why, or you just that's all what you've always done?
That's just because that's what they want to eat.
They won't eat. Okay, listen.
They'd
hey,
rather eat that
hey.
in the summer. Just right now, early in the year, they just want a regular spinner bait up there shallow.
Okay, all right, I like that. Was that a good enough answer for you, Brooks?
that was going to be the one bait because that's what most people talk about. And the 2 times I've ever been night fishing, we did catch them similar to
On
that.
the spinner bait like that. That makes sense. Now, this is a very interesting question from Rick Gray. Pull that up right there for everybody to see. Would the outcome be better for y'all if they allowed a full day of practice like maybe the Skeeter tournaments allow? And before they answer, I will say this. One of the changes that Alan and the guys are contemplating going forward is a day of practice. Given that this was the first time that he ran this tournament, again, it's a learning experience for them throwing the tournament. He's getting feedback from all the anglers, and I think that's one of the things that was brought up was actually having a day of practice. Brooks, would a day of practice made a big difference in what you did on the first full day?
I believe it would have made some adjustments to what I did, but I wouldn't say there's not an excuse for why I didn't catch them the way I should. I feel like I knew where these fish were going and what they should be doing. So I don't say I wanted a day of practice, but in hindsight, it probably would have keyed me in on a few smaller things, but I still probably would have been a little bit off from what exactly those fish were doing.
Okay, and Paul, the same question to you, but I'm gonna add in a little thing. When it comes to bedding fish, all right, when them guys are riding around on day one and say you guys got some practice and you see a pocket full of bedding fish, do you just mark those mentally and don't even mess with them and then just go try to find something else? And then back to the original question, would a day of practice have made a difference in what you did?
A day of practice would have helped them guys even more.
The pros.
Yes, that would have helped them even more. It would not have helped me because I would have probably throwed on some of the places I planned to fish. I would have caught a fish. We caught them everywhere we planned to catch them. The size just wasn't there. So if I caught a 2 3/4, I would have left and said, still here.
Yeah.
Thinking the females were mixed in with them, and they probably were. I spent the last hour of my ride around looking to see if there was any bedding fish. There was. I found some. Couldn't catch them. One was caught by Drew Cook, one right at 6 pounds, right in front of me, and the other ones were just gone. So I decided to stick with my game plan. Game plan was to do exactly what I did.
Yeah.
Like Brooks said, 19 pounds a day.
Spotted bass.
That did it for a meal and calves.
Yeah.
And that's what we needed.
Now, let me ask you this, and this is because you made that answer. How did it feel when you had gone through on your ride around and you had located a bass that was on bed and then to watch another angler take that fish after you had found it? I mean, I know you can't blame him,
No,
but
fish is
yeah,
all
but
about decision making.
Yeah.
And, I had 2 in one place and 1 in another, and decided that morning I better go to them quick because I seen a lot of boats in the area. Both of them was in the back of marinas, so I had to idle into them. And I said, I go to the 2. I'm an early boat number. I get to them 2. Even if somebody finds the 1, I made the wrong decision. The female was gone on 1. Carp took the other one over, rolled in, and there's Drew Cook bowed up with a net. It's just about, the tournaments are about decision making.
Yeah.
And sometimes you make them right and everything goes smooth and you win. And other times they don't. And I made the wrong decision which fish to go to, but I wouldn't change it tomorrow. I'd have done the same thing.
Right.
2 fish versus 1. I'm going to the 2 first.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Let's see. Next question. Hey, Robert Bretz. I want to say hey to Robert Bretz because he actually joined us Tuesday night on our trout episode. So appreciate you being a double dipper this weekend. Yeah, full moon and lunar patterns. I think we're going back to the night fishing there. Did either of you try fishing lizards? And I just want to say this, that I had fished a tournament on Allatoona, and this wasn't nothing to do with Cifuentes, but from a report I got on Allatoona, they were catching them on a Carolina rig, dragging a 4-inch green pumpkin lizard. Caught a few on that. Did a lizard, Carolina rig, anything like that, whether it be in dragging a flat for spots or in a bed? Did you try it at all or even think about it?
I thought about the Carolina rig slightly a little bit, but
Right.
Over the past few years, it's just seemed like the shakehead or Nika rig has been pretty predominant for me. And it's not that those techniques don't work. It's just I think those 2 baits are a little more efficient for me, and I can kind of manipulate them in one place rather than kind of just, I won't say aimlessly dragging around, but I'll definitely lean towards those on these clear lakes rather than a Carolina rig.
Okay. All right. What about you, Paul?
I think a lot of guys throw the lasso rig for a couple of days in that tournament and did well with it. Me personally, I don't throw it.
You don't throw the lizard?
No, I don't throw a Carolina rig.
Carolina rig at all. The old ball and chain. Just don't like it, huh?
You give me a little shaky head and let me be.
It's funny that you say that because like I've never really thrown a Carolina rig, and I tried it on Allatoona, caught a few, but my goodness, that is not the most fun way to fish.
I can tell you a cowboy guy showed us he can catch them.
So Fuente, and he was a good dude, but yeah, several of the pro guys, of course, you guys that were kind of in tune with this tournament had on their Facebook, they had brought their social media guys, and they had live on the water action. And I kind of hope, at least on the final day, maybe Alan and them can incorporate that into this tournament going forward. This is an interesting question from Luke Turner, real quick. So why is it black baits at night? Again, and that was just kind of my question. I know a lot of guys that will throw the whites and you mentioned white and chartreuse, but you like black. There's really no rhyme or reason other than that's just maybe what we've always done. Do you think it gives off a better silhouette?
Well, you'd think that's what it does, a silhouette. But then if you got a full moon or a bright moon, you can't hardly get bit on a spinner bait at night. So that debunks that. So I really don't know. It's just always been black, purple, black chartreuse. I've seen people throw white pork rinds on the back of them, but I don't have a reason why. Just late in the summer when it gets warm, June, July, August, it's going to be. Maybe it looks good to us, and that's why we throw it.
It might be.
It works.
I can tell you.
If it works, I'm not going. Yeah. I don't care what color it is.
You sell the hell out of them during the summertime, and all of a sudden it goes from everybody wants a natural shad, a white, or something, and then all of a sudden it's like this, just like them bass moving up on bed. It's just like one day it goes boom, everybody's throwing black. Single Colorado black ones. Go to that next question from Palms 353. Appreciate you joining us tonight. Do y'all feel the bigger fish are on the south end of the lake? And I will say this, that I do know that is the predominant thought of people coming into the shop. How about you, Brooks? You fish the south a lot?
I do. I think there's big spots and largemouth spread across Lanier, but more times than not, some of those bigger ones are just, they live down there. But really that Port Royale south area is almost, I mean, if you consider that south, that's where I think some of the biggest fish in the lake are.
In the Port Royale area.
Port Royale south.
And south, from there to the dam.
Just that section. That's where I will spend all my time on Lanier.
Okay. All right, Mr. Legend, what do you think?
80% of all tournaments are won from Browns Bridge down.
I figured you were going to say that.
It is. If you use Paul Marks, for instance. If I see Paul Marks,
who was another local, Paul Marks Jr. was
it by a drop
just,
of water.
I mean, I could say it in a way that I shouldn't.
I'd rather missed it like I missed it than him.
He was right there.
Yeah.
Another great young angler coming up. Everybody knows about Paul.
If I see Paul Marks above that bridge, and he's going to be in the pay line 90% of the time, if I see him above that bridge, he ain't got him.
Well, that makes sense.
See him above the bridge, you don't know about a meal.
Yeah, he's a little coy. He's
coy.
Yeah.
But if I see little Paul or somebody above that bridge, something bad happening.
Yeah, and I should, in all these some of these other local anglers again. Rob Jordan, he finished in the top 12.
He made it in there.
Yeah, and actually, Rob Jordan will be here.
Millsaps made it in there.
Millsaps, yeah. Jimmy Millsaps made it.
More power to them.
Rob Jordan will be here along with another guest, not next week because that's a meal and calves, but the week after. So we're going to really get a good feel about Lake Lanier, this tournament, and what's going to go on forward from that. And again, every one of you guys I'm sure are going to approach this lake differently. But yeah, I remember Paul Marks. I thought he had it.
I did too.
I thought Junior had it, and then it just like you said, just wasn't meant to be that day. So, but again, kudos again to all those guys.
But you look now at day three's weight.
Yes, it was
day
different.
Three's weight is what I believe. I talked to Emil. I talked to several. Day three's weight is what we expected for this tournament. That's what we expected.
Right.
Was day three weight. There was one bag over 20.
Mm-hmm.
Had a lot of 14 to 16s. That's what I thought would take place day two and day three. With day two, it didn't.
I got you.
That was the game changer.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense right there. Let's see there, Tim.
The mayor says that Paul may have slid way back from his mic.
Paul, get closer there, buddy. I mean, guys want to hear you.
All right, there you go.
Yeah,
Much better. He just rolled back a little bit.
They
It
just
happens.
rolled back. Okay, so let's see. Pull up Cliff right there, right below Ronnie Allison right there. And appreciate Ronnie Allison. You join us tonight too as well. Just think the black bait creates a shadow silhouette that contrasts against the little light from the moon. So again, and that's pretty much the predominant answer for a lot of guys. And Bruce and Tammy Arnold, right there. Great showing, Brooks and Paul. Y'all were right where, if the size isn't there, it's just hard to win. It's where you guys at. But I was pulling for the locals. I believe weather's the key. Y'all hush about that spinner bait bite. Hey, listen, it's there. Everybody knows about it. Is that your mom and dad, or is that your dad?
The Arnold?
Oh, Arnold. No, I got you. You know what? My bad. My bad. Like, listen now, yeah. Well, your dad's sending me emails all the time, and that was such a great compliment. It sounded like it was going to come from your dad. I was like, well, a lot of people's moms watch this show.
Yeah.
I get in a lot of trouble. Dirty water, you throw brighter. Let me ask you this. I tell you what, before I jump into the forward-facing sonar aspect of it, or the non-forward-facing sonar, let's do the question of the week, Tim. All right? And before you put the camera on you, let's do this. I said I was going to give away a natural herring Spro sashimi 125. I'll also throw in a magic swimmer from Berkeley in chrome, because of course that's a color a lot of you guys are going to want to do as well. So Tim, let's have the question of the week, and I don't know it. I don't know the answer. So this is all on you, dog.
All right, everybody. What two Bassmaster anglers have won 3 BASS tournaments in a row, and what years?
Say that again.
What two Bassmaster anglers have won 3 BASS tournaments in a row, and what years? That'll be 2 anglers, 2 years. Make sure you put the full answer in there, because it makes it real confusing.
All right, so you can put it back on me, and you're going to be watching while all these guys are doing that. Caught me in the act right here. So Scott Barnes, we're going to get to this question real quick, and then I'm going to go to the forward-facing sonar aspect of the show. The wind. Paul, how tough was it to fish in that bad wind?
Paul didn't fish in the wind, but for 15 minutes. When I went down the lake, I said I started on a herring hole above. Didn't do no good when was going by Port Royal, and just seeing white caps everywhere. And me, my bad leg, I can't stand up in that. So I turned around, went into Landmar in the protected thing. I caught a 4.8 right off the bat. Thought, well, now we're cooking with grease, and then I caught a 3.75, and it kind of slowed down, and I got antsy. And I run across the lake and ate a bunch of waves, got wet, got to a place I knew some fish were. First cast with a fluke stick, I caught a 3-something, got rid of a little one. The next cast, I don't even think the fluke stick hit the bottom, and I caught another 3-something. And I forgot to pull my net back to the front. And like I said, I spot locked. The waves was coming over the front of the boat. I made another throw, and I caught another one about 3.5. And when I went to net it, I fell from the top deck back in the passenger seat. Thought I broke my ribs, knocked the breath out of me, got PO'd and mad at myself. And
Smoke you a cigarette?
No, I couldn't light it. The wind was blowing too hard. So I just pulled the trolling motor and left. Probably the worst decision I've ever made. I just sucked it up. And I stayed there till they quit biting. But I went back to Landmar, and I lived there till time to go back. So I didn't fish in the wind. I think these younger guys, they ate it all day.
Yeah, but listen, I mean, you done broke your ribs.
I didn't break them, but I sure thought I did.
Yeah, but I mean, and you're a little upset. So I can understand that decision. As somebody close in age to you, I can understand that decision. Hell, I've run from the wind a lot. All right, young man, have we got a winner yet?
We absolutely do.
Who is the winner? Scratch fishing. The answer was Roland Martin, 1981, Kevin Van Dam, 2005. And what was the question again? So everybody knows.
What two Bassmaster anglers have won 3 BASS tournaments in a row and what years?
Okay,
And that
so
was
there you
Roland
go.
Martin in 81, KVD in 05.
I'm not going to count it against you that you said Roland Martin like that, but hey, it's all right. How do you spell Roland's name? Or am I wrong?
With A-N.
A-N. Okay, Roland.
It's
we
Roland.
won't count spelling against you.
No.
We're just good old simple country folk
Shit,
up here.
is rolling if he won.
He
three in a
was
row.
rolling. Hell yeah, he was. All right, so Brooks, the win. How was it?
Day 2, like you said, it was absolutely brutal, and I personally do enjoy fishing in the wind, but that was almost too much for me. And
you were down south.
yeah, I was in it.
It gets some big water, gets big waves down there on Lake Lanier.
And, my boat specifically, I keep this boat for conditions like that. It's a deeper hull Triton. It's a little bit older, but when I get in that big water, I'm not scared to run around, or it kind of keeps me stabilized. But I kept staying out there fishing just in hopes that one of those spots those fish had pulled up on, because when they do, it can get right in a hurry. So I took my odds with that and really kind of gambled. But at some point in the day, like Paul said, I got out of it and tried to slow down, and I did, and I caught one right at 470-ish that was spawning 100%, and that kind of led me down a bad rabbit hole where I kept catching smaller bucks throughout the day.
Okay. I know you're getting ready to pull up Michael's. Going up, there was one question I wanted to get to before we get to Michael Temples. It was from Cam right up there. Yeah, there you go. All right. And again, I'm getting ready to get into the forward-facing stuff here. Can they go into what to look for with a shad spawn for someone like myself just getting, deep into the reading about fish behavior? So, Paul, what are you looking for first to notice a shad spawn, and then kind of maybe tell them where it normally happens?
Lake Lanier, any lake really, poles to islands, just a flat, hard bottom spot. They just like to get up on a hard bottom, a shallow, a flat place that runs. And I don't know if they get up there to spawn the fish, push them up there off the edges, but that's where you'll find them. At Lanier, it usually starts right above the bridge and will work both ways, mainly south. But it ain't got going good yet.
Right.
I think we're still a couple weeks off to where you can go through a redfin or a topwater and have a field day on them.
Okay. All right. Now, another question for you from Michael Temples now. Michael, how you doing, buddy? Let's see. How does Paul fish that fluke stick this time of year?
In this tournament, usually I take it and put it on a 1/8 ounce, 3/16, and I was using the Fluke Junior. Seems to work a little bit better right now this time of year. Sometimes I take the tail off. For this particular tournament, all of my fish except for one come on a redfin. All of them come on a Fluke Stick Junior, and I left the tail on it. And I would absolutely usually I take it and throw it, shake it, drag it like a worm. That's not the way they want it right now. I'll take it, throw it out there. If I got a little bit of wind, throw it out there, let it hit the bottom, and I'll slow reel it back. Just let it bump along the bottom. If I can get by with an 1/8 ounce, I will. If it takes a 3/16, that's as much as I'll go because there's so much grass, green.
Oh, it's
goo.
there now. Yeah.
But just reel it real slow, and they'll take it out of your hand.
All right. Let's see. So Grant Carmichael, yeah, AI failed you on that question this time. Christopher Taylor says we got to get you a Zippo lighter for those windy days. Yeah, we got to do that. Let's see. There was a question. Well, I like this comment from Steve Pinkston. I take spot lock over forward facing sonar any day. And I imagine that probably helped you guys a little bit in the wind.
A little bit. I used it one time, but I typically don't use spot lock unless I'm retying.
Really? So you're always moving?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What about you?
I got one leg that works. I use spot lock every time I get.
I kind of figured that kind of answer was coming. Scratch fishing. And again, hey, I think I got your contact info, Scratch, but if not, message it to me on Facebook so I can make sure you get your prize. And again, if the USPS place down in Palmetto don't get their act together and it don't show up in a few days, I promise you I sent it. What is a redfin?
Who makes a cotton cordell? Cotton cordell. I used a little 3-hook one. It's just a dumb looking little bait, chrome and blue or whatever you want. White ones, cloudy days, but it's just a little bait. It just wobbles on top of the water.
It's a top water
weight
bait. Weight bait.
Throw it on spinning rod, whatever you can't throw it good. Throw it on spinning rod and just reel it real slow till it wobbles and they'll eat it.
Yeah. So yeah, that scratch it is. It's a weight bait. Okay. So now let's get into this part because I really want to get y'all's opinions because I know both of you guys utilize forward facing sonar. Paul, when you were on, you were talking about learning it from the young guys. Brooks, you've had it for the last few years in the college scene, and now that you're fishing some of these BFLs and all. So I know both of you guys utilize it. This tournament, again, no forward facing sonar. Not a protest against it, just kind of like a throwback tournament. So now, Paul, that you fished one of these, had to go back old school a little bit. How did it go as far as, your preparation, your mental mindset, knowing that you couldn't use that forward-facing sonar? And then part two of this question is, did you like fishing without it?
First day I had to cover a lot of water to see the fish they would not tell me what they wanted. I'd catch one doing one thing, another doing another. It just, first day was kind of a grind for me. And I caught myself over and over going left to right with my trolling motor, even though I didn't even have forward facing, just out of reaction, looking, and
out of habit.
Out of habit.
Out of habit.
I enjoyed it. Just took a little while to get used to. I throw it a waypoint, miss it 3 times before I'd finally hit what I was trying to hit.
And that's another thing too. You had to basically also too. Another thing about this tournament is before the tournament they had to erase all pre-existing waypoints, and so on that ride around or during the fishing day, they could create a waypoint. So you had to go back. How many waypoints did you recreate on that ride around?
126.
126 waypoints in
all rock.
Dang.
I was determined that's how it was going to be one.
126. You's busy.
Busy.
You's busy. All right, Brooks, as a young angler young anglers today have the fair or not, the reputation of we can't catch fish without forward-facing sonar, or they can't catch fish without forward-facing sonar. How did it change, your preparation going into it, and what do you think about the format fishing without it?
So I think it was pretty cool to kind of take a step back and get back to, I guess you could say, my roots of fishing without it. It definitely completely shifted my game plan of where I was going to kind of target these fish, which was a lot shallower than I typically do fish. But I don't think I was hindered by not having it, but I definitely did go over some areas where I knew they were at. I just couldn't physically see them on the screen, but I still feel like in my heart that those fish should have been catchable, and me not having it didn't hinder me per se, but it, like he said, it took me way too long to get clued in to what I need to do, what pattern I need to be running. That's really the biggest thing I use forward-facing sonar to do, is see what those fish are doing and what kind of baits I would be using for that day. So that's the only one downside that kind of threw me for a spin. But for overall fishing, it wasn't the worst thing not having it, but it was definitely a big change from usual.
Okay, either one of you, whichever one you want to go first, did you utilize your 2D any?
So I actually just put the Minn Kota Quest on my boat, and I run Lowrance Live, so I haven't had time to get a transducer and hook it up. So that was completely out of the picture for me.
Right, so you had no 2D on
I wish I did, but
did.
I didn't have it.
Paul?
I use no 2D at all.
The reason I brought that up is Jason Johnson, again, another great local, who I hope to get on soon, fished a tournament. He was fishing. I did hear him say during the weigh-in, he was fishing 40, 50 foot deep, going to places where he was familiar with, knew the fish should be there. But on his Facebook page, and he can correct me if he's watching, if I get this wrong, he has a feeling now that with forward-facing sonar, the vertical dropping game on a brush pile is gone, because in his experience, when you drop that forward face, that live scope, all that down on those brush piles, the fish scatter. And he was kind of happy that he had a 2D, because he basically went back and started using that 2D where you could still see the arches go down. Again, granted, not in real time, but the 2D did not spook the fish. And that was what he put on his Facebook page. Have you experienced anything like that? Yes or no, right or wrong? Or, what do you think about his comments on that?
I'm not going to let the live scope burn them down. I'm going to turn off of them. Once I see as soon as I know that fish, my bait's going where that fish is, or that fish lets me know that he sees my bait, I'm going to turn off of them.
You turn it off of them.
It's going to burn them down. They're going to move.
So you think that the pulse or whatever
I
it's
think
sending
they're
out.
getting smart.
Interesting. All right. What about you, young man?
So I have two takes on this. The first one, I think a lot of these fish don't behave and eat the same as they did before live scope. And that kind of made this tournament a little bit more tricky because these fish, they set up a little bit different. They may be in the same areas, but they don't feed exactly the same as they did 3 or 4 years ago, in my opinion, just from using live scope with and without it. And when I am fishing for one, if it's a Demiki style bait or anything like that, I will keep it on them, just see what that fish is doing. If it's a bait where it's sinking past them, I sometimes turn it off them, but I'm a big believer in turning off all my units at the dash, my 2D up front, and I solely want that live scope ping on them. But that's it. I try to minimize all trolling motor noise, all 2D or down scan, anything in back. I don't like to have any of that on. I'm fishing these clear lakes.
Okay.
And Brooks is correct. If you're Demiki rigging them or something, they're out in front of you. You've got to watch them to know what they're doing. I was talking about fish that was on brush or on a dock or just down there and hovering around the bottom. Them's the fish I was talking about turning off. You turn on a dock. You got a fish on a pole on a dock right now. You turn on it and just hold it on him. He's going to move.
Yeah, and I think that's what Jason was kind of saying right now. They're
correct.
getting conditioned.
That's correct.
All right, so how about this? Going forward, say in the professional ranks, and that's what you aspire to, and Paul, you have fished professionally in the past. Do you think Bass, MLF, these other organizations should either limit the amount of transducers and live scopes that an angler has, or fish a tournament or two a year in a similar fashion to this one with no forward-facing sonar?
It's going to get limited.
You think so?
It's going to get limited by the inches of the screens you can have on your boat and the number of transducers.
And I think that would be
It's
good.
coming. It's coming.
There's just too much backlash.
I personally like watching it.
I do too.
I don't mind looking at his back because I know what's going on. I know how fun it is. It's fun to me.
Yeah.
A regular tournament, if I wake up in the morning, mine don't come on, I'm going back to the house.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of the fun out. I enjoy it. And if you don't have a Brooks or these younger guys to get in the boat with and go, you'll never figure this out. You're just missing out on so much. Without this younger generation of anglers, I would have never, and I'm not great at it, but I'm good enough to compete.
But you utilize them
kids, the younger generation, they've got this live scope figured out. When you think you know, then you get in. I fish with Cole and them younger guys. And when you get in the boat with them and you watch them, like, next time that won't happen.
Yeah, there's a science to it.
Yeah, there's a science to it.
Again, you just don't turn it on and see fish and catch them. Atlanta Clutch, spot lock is amazing, saves my back and back and off the trolling motor. Saves his back and off the trolling motor. I got you. Sorry, it's been a long day right here. Autopilot is excellent. Now, Eric Richards has a great question. Paul, I'm going to let you answer this one first, and then I'll get you, Brooks. What was worse, not using forward-facing sonar or being off limits that long? Because it was, 2 weeks basically?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. So what was worse, no forward-facing sonar or a 2 week off limit?
I liked them both because I felt like it would give the locals an advantage. That didn't play out like that, but to answer the question, the off limits, fish could not have it couldn't have been any worse what happened for me. So many largemouth, you still could have competed with them. You still could have made the cut, but you could not hardly get the big females to eat. It wasn't a problem of catching fish. Like Brooks said, a lot of 299s, 279s in that ballpark of red-eyed pissing males. And it was fun, and you'd hook them, and you'd think, oh, I got a 4-pounder now. And you'd get them, and you'd think, you got to be joking me. And it just wouldn't do you no good.
That's another T-shirt for us, Tim. Red-eye pissing male.
I like it.
That covers a lot of different things right there. All right, Brooks, what was worse? 2 weeks off, no forward-facing sonar.
So, like he said, I was actually almost excited for both those two aspects of this tournament, which is a lot different from how I fished in the past 2 years. But I thought with how this tournament was going to set up, it would be a huge advantage. But if I had to pick one, honestly, probably the 2 weeks off limits, because
To go or to keep? You would keep the 2 weeks off limit?
I would definitely keep that, because if those guys got out there for more than
I
4
got you.
hours, there's no telling what they would have put
I
together.
got you. My bad on interrupting you. I was want to make
that's
sure
fine.
I understood you, but I get it. And so, and that's another thing too. In all the comment section across all the social media, I heard two things. A local should win the tournament. Locals are going to have the advantage. And then, of course, it was either pro bed fishing or anti bed fishing. And so before I get to the next question, which will be Adam W. Fishing, I'll get to his next. How about this, Paul? I read so many comments from people. They're just bed fishing. Like anybody can roll up to a bed and just pop an 8-pounder off a bed. When they said, it's no forward facing sonar, but they're just bed fishing, which the locals kind of proved because a lot of you guys went after spots. But what do you think when somebody makes a comment like that?
Jealousy.
Hey, I like the honesty.
I mean, it's hard. You can, it's same as
I love
forward
this guy.
facing sonar.
Yeah.
You can see them, you can find them. You still got to catch them. I heard these locals. I mean, I heard some of these guys from out of town saying if they throw it up there and caught the male, which is what usually jerk the male off, catch the female. If they caught the male, the female never would act right. So they would take it away from the male, and keep on till the female got stupid, went up there and ate it. They'd catch her. It's not as easy as it sounds. I heard some of these guys say that y'all got the dumbest bedding fish I've ever seen in my life. They bite easy. Them guys are not doing what they're doing and making a living the way they want to because they suck. The guys are just good.
You're right.
Yeah, and I'm with Brooks.
Yeah.
You give them 1 day of practice, and us locals, we don't have an advantage.
Yeah, but I like that you said number one, jealousy, because I think people always
look for a reason why. I mean, hey, I'm guilty of it. I'll say the reason them kids beat the brakes off of us every week because they're out there all week long and we have to work for a living.
Yeah,
it's not true. It's just easy to blame it on something, and I'm gonna blame it on that.
Hey, listen, go for it. But you're right. You're absolutely right in that.
Those are words of wisdom.
Words of wisdom. So we've got red eye, piss, and bass, and then we've got that. But reading those comments and you saying jealousy, it seems to me that when I read a comment like that, that might be true. Or they try to discredit anything. Like that's what's wrong. Everybody tries to discredit anything that's new, anything that's different. Oh, no forward facing sonar. Oh, they're just bed fishing. No big deal. And it's like, did you see the guys that the quality of the anglers that it took to catch those fish?
If it was that easy, I would have been in the cut because I'd have went bed fishing. Yeah,
who's like me just don't go up and catch 24 pounds on any given Saturday. Oh yeah, I can do it. In fact, Chris Johnston on the 8+ pounder that won big fish for the tournament and really gave him a sizable lead going into the last day. If you got to see our interview with him, he spent 2 hours working that 8-pound bass, told his marshal, hey, I need to leave. I spent too much time. He said, give me 5 more minutes. The marshal said, all right, your 5 minutes is up. And he said, give me 2 more casts. Or I say marshal, whoever was riding around. I guess marshal's the right word. Is that the right word in this? All right. I'm not a pro tournament guy. 2 more casts. And on that second cast, he caught it. So basically 2 hours and 5 to 7 minutes for a professional angler on the Bassmaster Elite Tour. If it was that easy, he'd caught that thing in the first 10 minutes and been gone to the next one.
Yeah, and I shouldn't discredit whoever put that in as jealousy. It's
but it's
just not as a forward-facing sonar tournament would have played better out if there was no bedding fish. But that's not the case. He had a schedule. He had to work around everybody's schedule to make it happen. And that was a date. The bedding fish fell in place. Have it the week before this week. It wouldn't have never happened like it did.
Yeah, we thought it would be a spot tournament. And that's where we thought the locals would have an advantage. It just didn't play out that way. So just bad timing. I want both of you guys to answer this next question because I bet you do it in a different way. Adam W. Fishing. Paul, how do you locate the rock? What depth? And thanks to both of you for sharing your knowledge. So let's just take this tournament. No forward facing sonar or anything. You're going through, you're creating waypoints. How did you locate the rock and at what depth did you think, was going to work? How did you come about that? From just knowledge of the past?
Well,
or?
yeah. Right before cutoff, the Saturday and the Sunday, we had to quit at Sunday at midnight. We caught like me and Cole played around together, and I think we caught like 17 and a half on Saturday, and then I caught 19 something on Sunday, and it was all on rock. So we knew rock would play I felt like you could win on rock. The depth of the rock is from 2 foot on the bank to 8 foot, but the good rock is usually where people can't see. It's usually 10 and 15 foot rock on a hump or on the side of a point, or it's just out there, and that's from just years of experience. But the easiest way to go mark it, I would just ride through with my side scan. It shows rock well.
And that was legal.
I would side scan it real quick, put 4 or 5 dots on every corner of it, and take off to the next one. And
okay,
that's how you find it.
That's good. Brooks, how about you? Same way?
So locating rock for me is on Lanier is what is around the rock, like what kind of clay or sand and what kind of area it's in. So that's the biggest thing for me is like, yes, that rock's there. And like you said, the best rock is stuff that people just can't obviously see, but it's what makes that rock different. Is there a clay bank coming meeting a sand bank? Is there like what's going on in that area?
Yeah.
So I think that's what separates some of my best rock areas on Lanier than others. Is the bottom composition and just kind of the abnormalities of what makes that rock there.
Okay, so, what would make a rock bad?
There's not. I wouldn't say there's bad rock. There's just
better rock.
I don't like that old sandy rock. What I guess it'd be called. The best rock is boulder rock on red hard clay. That's that's your better rock. You don't have so much grass get on it, and the crawfish will get on it a lot better. I don't know the name of that rock. Sandstone. Just sandstone rock.
Right.
It sucks. It gets grass all over it, old green stuff.
That snot grass is what I call it. That's the worst thing. I'm going to have to ask God why he even created that stuff when I get there.
But Brooks right. It's just, there's good rock and bad rock. And it's process of elimination.
Well, he said something very specific. He said rock on red clay. Do you have a preferred rock? A preferred situation?
I like rock when it's isolated. If it's anywhere that there isn't rock for a little bit and there's one specific vein of it or a group of them that are off the bank a little bit, like you said, anywhere that I can pull up, fish it, know they should be there and leave. I'm not trying to go down a mile of natural rock on the south end during a tournament.
Right.
And I'm fun fishing. If I'm cranking, throwing a jig, something like that, you can go down those areas and catch them. But for tournament purposes, I'm looking for a specific zone where it's 10, 15 yards, even smaller size of your boat, that there's good rock and it's very isolated in this location.
Okay. All right. So fishing with Farmer. Hey, baby. That's an inside joke you guys don't know. Yum no. And all right. So Brad Silvers. I'll have to explain that one to you, Tim, after the show.
I knew he was talking to you, not me.
Yeah, he was. Do y'all see the big spots on Lanier running with the stripers? Either one of you guys.
Go fish in October.
In October.
Yeah, and you'll see that right there.
They're right there together in October.
Wade through.
Do you really? All right, so there you go. That's a good answer right there. October. What's our next question right there? Let's see. Michael Temples again. Oh, yeah. Well, Chris Taylor, I like his comment too. Put $80,000 on the line when anyone is in a tournament and pass on that. Okay. Put $80,000 on the line when anyone is on a tournament and pass by an 8-pound bedfish. That's when you become stupid. And they see it. They see the bedfish. Okay, I got you right there. Yeah, they become stupid. He spent 2 hours on it, but that 2 hours he spent on it
paid off.
That's about $2,500 an hour. I like that rate of pay right there. All right, Michael Temples. How much do you think the cold front hurt that tournament? Do you think it hurts the locals or the pros more? So, Brooks, I'm going to give you that one right there. How much did the cold front hurt you, and do you think it affected the locals or the pros more?
I don't think cold fronts on Lanier at this time of year aren't as impactful as people kind of hype them up to be.
Right.
If those pros are sight fishing and those fish have already made that transition and they found them in an area, they'll have confidence to go run around and find them again. Because once those fish make that last push to get up there, it takes a lot to get them to come off.
Yeah, once they lock on and everything.
And once they start that phase, that specific group of them is more than likely going to do whatever it takes to stay up there and spawning. They may be floating around in the morning, but for the majority of the time, those fish will get back up on the beds.
So in your mindset, the pros they probably already know that we've got a springtime cold front, much different than, say, a cold front that comes through in November.
If November or even per se in March or February, those will be more impactful to where those fish will be staged up. But this late into the spawn in April, those cold fronts are usually not as harsh, and they don't really change the fish too much, in my opinion, from what I've seen.
The water temperature definitely didn't drop, and really the air temperature, other than when the wind was actually blowing, wasn't that bad. So do you agree with what he said?
Brooks, did you not think that Tuesday night, I know when I'm going to bed during the night, I'm hoping for me as a spotted bass angler trying to make the cut, that thunder and lightning and them storms knock them bedding fish back, knock them off.
You were hoping that
because it happens. Every time I've ever had bedding fish and we have big storms, you'll lose 50% of them. I mean, they're just going to back off, and it don't from the weights. That didn't happen.
So you think it's more of the storm, not necessarily the front.
Cold front. That once they're there, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah,
because it got a little chillier, the wind blowed, but the thunder and lightning usually will hurt it, and I was counting on that.
Yeah,
I was hoping.
And it didn't happen.
Well, the weights didn't show it.
Yeah, they didn't show it.
I definitely agree with you about the thunder and the storms and things like that. And I was thinking the same thing in my head. But as a mild cold front like that's not what I was worried about. I was kind of hoping that some of those other aspects would play. But
I got you. So we got some comments about the rock. Too much rock can be bad, from JP Vern. And Scott Barnes says soft rock is the best. Listen, you said, I know you probably listen to soft rock. I know that's what he's saying. You got to go with the 80s hair bands, man, and Van Halen and all that. That's the best. He probably listens to Air Supply. Don't Scott Barnes kind of
That's hard for him.
You think that's hard rock for him?
Yeah.
He probably listens to disco.
You see his bling. He's fixing to get in the bass club.
Okay, I got you. Soft rock is the best. Bruce and Tammy Arnold. I'm assuming I'm talking to Bruce and not Tammy. So Bruce Arnold. Paul, I like shale boulder rock. Big dark shades in between them, about 12 feet deep. How about you? That sounds like Allatoona.
No, it's
Does Lanier have a bunch of that?
Yeah. I'm with Brooks. I don't get on a stretch of bank with a rock and stuff. I want just isolated places, no bigger than a car, a couple of cars. You fish them quick, they're there, they ain't, you gone. I've got no patience. That's my worst downfall is they better bite quicker. I'm leaving. And going down a stretch of bank that all looks the same. I thought as
we got older, we matured and became more patient.
I'm as hard-headed and stubborn as anybody you ever meet.
That's what I've been told. I've been told that. I'm not going to tell you by who. No, I'm kidding. Rob Ketchum, appreciate you joining us tonight. And all you guys hanging in here. Great questions. You're making my job so easy tonight. All right. We'll start with you, Brooks, being the younger generation. What brand units do you have on your boat? If you have different brands, please tell why.
So I'm not sponsored by anyone, so I run all 3 units. I have 2 HGS 12 lives, and then a 12 Helix at the dash, and then a Garmin up front for my forward facing. Reasoning, Lowrance's are by far the best in waypoint management over any other brand. You can have the icons, put them in and out of the SD card, makes life a lot easier. Lake Master has the best mapping system, in my opinion. Just being able to see the subtleties that CMAP or even Navionics just would never pick up. Lowrance has a great map, but for me, Lake Master definitely takes the cake on mapping, and then the Garmin is light years ahead on.
I
forecasting.
will say this. I'm not an expert, but I looked at a Lowrance, fished with a gentleman, and I fished with a gentleman with the Garmin. They're not even playing on the same field.
I will say active target is a little bit better in shallow water.
It may be, but I'm just talking about just looking at the screen and the details for somebody that's not experienced. Now, granted, I don't know what I'm looking at, but I just thought that Garmin was like, whoa. That's just me. What about you, Paul? What units do you use and why?
3 12 lives and Garmin up front. Garmin's just superior in forward-facing technology, in my opinion. And Humminbird, love their mapping. But every time I drive somebody's boat that's got Humminbird, I about wreck it because you got red and green. I think I'm running into trees and islands and everything.
It's too much colors for you.
I can't do it.
I love that answer. Farmer, again, let's pull up. He's down 2 right there. All right, so this is but you said you like bed fishing and you enjoy it. So before I ask his question, I'm gonna ask you, Brooks. Did you do any bed fishing at all? Did you toss into any beds during that tournament?
I did. I had 2 beds that I was almost counting on day one after my spot deal didn't pan out. And the first one I pulled up pretty far away. And what I usually like to do is I'll throw a stick bait over it like a wacky rig far before the fish would ever see me. And a lot of times that female will actually pick up that bait and you'll end up catching her first. In this scenario, I ended up catching a 3.5 pound spot, which I thought these were largemouth on bed, but they were spots.
Was it shallow?
It was about 5 or 6 feet.
Okay.
But I catch a 3.5 pound spot, and that really shocked me. And the female was long gone at that point. And I had one more bedfish further back in the pocket, and she would not bite unless I got the male agitated, kind of like how he touched on earlier. And I'd get him all riled up, and she'd come up on the bed, mouth the bait a few times, and I spent about 2 hours on her, and I finally pulled the plug. But I was close, but those fish just weren't quite in the right stage to bite.
How big do you think that female was?
It was upwards of 6.5, definitely.
So worth the 2 hours if you
Definitely.
if you'd got it.
I can sleep calm with that choice I made because say I do catch that fish, it completely changes the tournament for me.
Absolutely. So what Farmer wants to know is what's y'all's go-to bait to fire up a bedding fish? Mine is either a wacky or a lizard. Nobody listens to me when I say throw a green pumpkin Ned rig in there. I guess I'm just the only guy that ever does that. What do you try to fire them up with, Paul?
I got a icicle critter crawl. I put a little chartreuse on the tentacles.
Icicle.
Correct.
Okay. Chartreuse on the tentacles.
Just on a 3/8 head so I can get in there and get it down in bumper or whatever I need to do to fire up.
All right. So when your bait is in the bed,
correct.
What technique are you using? Like, are you just going to let it sit there for a little bit, hope she picks it up, because you just said bumper?
Yeah, I'm not going to leave it sitting in the bed.
You're going to just try to tick her off.
Throw it past her. I want to get her turned to the bank. I don't ever even try to catch them on the first couple of casts. I'm going to pull it through their bed, try to barely bump them. I want to get them turned to the bank. Once they get turned to the bank, you can hop it right in front of them into their bed, in their mouth, and they'll just suck it up. That's how it's supposed to work.
That's how it's supposed to be.
That's how it's supposed to work.
That's a good
If that
tip.
don't work, I'll just throw a brim in there and let it sit.
I got you. What about you?
So I'll have 2 crawl baits. One will be a natural one, and one will be white color. And similar to he said, I'm trying to agitate that fish until I get a reaction bite out of it and kind of just run it through the bed a few times, hit that fish upside, just reel it next to him and get that fish to initially flare on it. And if that doesn't happen within 5 minutes, I'm probably out of there because that fish is not going to.
Except for that one you spent 2 hours on.
Well, I could get the buck ate every single cast.
Did he really?
But the only way I could catch that female in that particular cycle of spawn they were, because she had not laid yet, so she was still pretty hesitant, and she would only get concerned when that buck was in distress or something was going wrong.
That same guys kept saying they had to catch the female. They caught the buck. They was done. Same thing he's saying.
But it's all dependent on reading what stage those fish are in. If they're rolling, those fish are some of the hardest fish to catch, in my opinion. But it's all about, because it happens in a span of a couple hours, and those females most time are not going to be there for more 1 to 2 days.
Okay. All right, guys. Again, in the comment section, trying to get to all your questions. If by chance we missed your question, type it again because Tim is back there working his butt off because you guys are just blowing it up tonight, and I love it. Let's see. There was a question by Michael Temples up above about rock color. I remember that one. Yeah, there it is. If you're looking for rock on Lanier, are you looking for light colored or dark colored rock? I've always heard black rock is better.
So do you like? Ask Brooks. I don't fish a lot of rock. I can see on the bank, so I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
I know he fishes crankbait some.
Yeah, definitely in the winter, like some of that larger, dark, natural rock. Maybe what he's talking about. That's stuff I like during the winter, but in the spring, I kind of like a little bit of separation in it where those fish can actually make a bed or stage on it.
Okay. All right, there you go. Bruce, what about storm and lightning and thunder? We talked about that a little bit. Both of these guys agree that when you get a very big thunderstorm, a lot of lightning, that could possibly push that female off for the time being, mess them up for a day or so like that. I think that is that correct? I mean, did I hit that right? That's what it should have done. How to catch a fish when you work 5 days a week, 10.5-hour days. What can Brown do for you? Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Now I know Brad Silvers is my. I'm old, dude. I'm old. All right. So say a guy has to work all day.
That's me.
Okay. Well, tell him how you do it.
I work 5 days a week. If I can slip off on a rain day, I go at 11, 12 o'clock. But most time my fishing is on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, you just got to put time on the water when you can.
That's correct.
All right, so scratch fishing. Now, this is an interesting question. I imagine when you're looking at bedfish, both of you guys probably utilize sunglasses, polarized glasses. What brand do you use, and what brand do you use? Brooks, you can go first.
I use Costa and specifically the green mirror amber lenses or the silver sunrise, I believe. Those are my two sight fishing glasses.
And they just cut through the water really good for you.
Well, they brighten things up a lot, especially with the silver sunrise and the amber. If you're wearing a traditional blue frame, it doesn't have that same contrast. And then on cloudy days, those really play.
That is a very intelligent answer to that question. What about you?
No, don't ask me. Kevin Steyer's Advanced Eye Center tells me what to buy, and that's what I buy. I couldn't tell you. Maui Gems and Costa Del Mars.
There you go. Okay. Cody wants to know how many of you have had a fish nose a bait with their nose. I guess just pushing the bait with their nose. You ever seen a fish on bed just kind of push it off with their nose?
They'll do all kind of tricks.
They'll do whatever it takes.
Suck it in, blow it out so quick you don't even have time to swing.
Yeah, I can. How about you?
Definitely, like you said, they do a number of things on the bed, but usually if that fish is nosing your bait, that you can catch that fish from what I've seen.
Okay. Robert Bretts, wait till you see the new Garmin coming. You think it's clear now, wait till you see it. And I believe are you talking about the 36V? That's what I saw. Have you seen that yet? I thought it was a joke.
I still think it's a joke.
I thought that what I saw on Facebook, the first time
working on something great.
Oh, they're working on something. But that one that's going around, that looked like just straight video game.
That's far fetched.
But if it is that,
then I might win a tournament again.
Yeah, I hear you. Let's see. Let's go down. Let's see. Surf Dad, the rain and the hot cold has been kicking my butt on tuna, but I still get a little lucky every time with the drop shot. Didn't see a lot of drop shot in tourneys. Is it just too slow of fishing? It's good for some local guides around here, but I mean, do you ever throw a drop shot at all? You drop shot fish?
Drop shot.
That's what I thought. Okay. Let's make sure.
I don't.
Because I mean, when we did the bent worm
shot, I'm either going to throw a bent worm or I'm going to throw a jig head.
Okay. What about
Texas rig, either one.
Texas rig. Okay. What about you?
I threw it a lot as a kid when I was using my 2D and looking at them, but pass.
You've matured past the drop shot.
No, it doesn't fit into my arsenal nowadays. But when I travel, it is an amazing bait for largemouth or different species, smallmouth. I mean, the drop shot is king. A lot of places we travel, but back here at home, it's never going to be on my deck.
I think the drop shot, and I tease the guides a little bit, but seriously, I think the drop shot's good for somebody you got a paying customer want to put them on fish.
Absolutely.
So that definitely does work. Here's a good one, Joey Metcalf. And I wanted to pull this question up because one of my buddies, Jonathan Ray, posted. He was the fellow that caught the 12-pound largemouth on Allatoona a couple weeks ago, but he also posted another video. It is that time of year throwing the methylate trickworm, and he posted a video. Weightless trickworm, bubblegum or methylate. Do you have a preference? Either one of you guys. You ever throw that weightless trickworm like that?
I do. I throw methylate.
You throw methylate.
Yep.
It don't look like a damn thing in the water either.
I don't know what they think it is. I guess they want to kill it so it don't reproduce.
It is. What? I didn't catch that till he said that. We got to get that thing out of here.
Yeah, get it out of the gene pool.
That's right. We got to cull that worm, whatever. What about you, Brooks?
I throw methylate exclusively when I am fishing like that.
The bubble gum, though, that was the hot one to begin with. It was bubble gum. Then you got the methylate. Did either one of you guys ever throw a white? I know Zoom makes it. You throw the black one.
Yeah,
but I know
largemouth lakes.
On largemouth. But I know Zoom makes a white trickworm. Yeah. If you had to throw a white trickworm, where would it be? Or would you?
Probably give it to my cousin.
Zoom sounds about right.
Zoom makes like one that's like neon green.
So
all colors.
Yeah.
Zach Lamb. This is right down there, two down there. Paul. I might have a tournament this weekend on Oconee. Any tips and techniques?
Hey, I'm looking for waypoints myself.
Spawn
areas.
Yeah, that's right. So I believe Paul will be down there fishing that Skeeter event. You fishing anywhere this weekend?
Lake Hartwell.
And what is that?
We have a 2-day.
Is this college?
This is college. So it's the ACA college event. It's 250 boats, and it's Saturday and Sunday.
So is Scooter, you fishing that?
I am.
Turn that camera on, Scooter. We got another celebrity in the house. He just came up here because Brooks is too scared to ride in the dark, is what I heard. So there's Scooter. He is a well-known young angler. I'm going to ask you one question. All right, what about the forward-facing sonar? You didn't fish the event, but you utilize it a lot. You're pretty good at it from what I've been told and what I see in the weights. What do you think about fishing an event? I mean, like with no forward-facing, how would it change the way you would approach it?
It's kind of hard to say, but it would definitely be, definitely a switch up from what I'm used to.
Yeah.
You still have to go find the same caliber fish because they live on the bank and whatnot. In places you can do that as well.
Would you go fish places based upon history on Lanier? Because you do really good on Lanier. So if you knew the week before you were catching them in 15, 20 foot of water with your forward-facing sonar, would you try just go and fish places like that?
Yeah, I definitely try it. Yeah, for sure.
All right. A lot of you guys don't know. I scared the hell out of Scooter when he was about 9 years old. I coached him in football. Halftime speech, they were sucking it up. He's seen me. He's seen the ugly side of me a time or two. We all mature, don't we?
Absolutely.
There you go. I like that. All right, so let's get back on these questions. Let's see. Paul, would you consider doing an on-the-water forward-facing sonar video? I got the cameras, dog.
No, you better get some of these young kids to do that.
Yeah, but I think the good thing about this show is I got the older generation, I got the younger generation, and we can do two videos. I can mic you up, and you can do whatever you want. I'll be on the boat with you. You want to do one day?
Yeah, we'll do one.
Okay. What about you, Brooks? Well, you do stuff like that. I mean, you got a YouTube
Absolutely.
channel.
Yeah, so
they've got the things wired in, figured out. Man, it's fun to watch their videos.
It is, but I think it'd be really. We might have some comedy if I can get on the boat with you watching you do that. I'd like to see you just get ill one time. Just see how ill Paul Driskell gets on a boat when things ain't going right.
Dude, it's ugly.
I bet it is. But hey, shout out, Brooks. You're what a lot of you guys don't know, or you may know, and if you don't know, you should know. Brooks has a YouTube channel. What's it called again?
Brooks Anderson Fishing. Brooks
Anderson Fishing. And actually on his YouTube channel, he kind of goes in depth a lot more than what you would think, gives out a lot of great tips. So, but you already do things like this.
Absolutely. And the biggest thing that I could say, and Paul touched on this earlier, you can watch all the videos, you can get on the boat with someone, but until you actually see it firsthand and you understand what that guy is doing with it, it's not worthless, but they're small things that make huge adjustments to that unit, and just understanding someone's approach to using it. That's why I love doing electronic strips, and just seeing the look on people's faces like, oh, I've been so close this whole time, but I was just missing that one thing.
The details.
All right.
The details. I had an assistant coach one time tell me, because success is all in the details. That's what separates the good guys, the good teams from the bad teams, the good anglers from the average anglers. Surf Dad, are the shads finally spawning now? Again, I think we covered that a little bit earlier, and there are places, but the full-blown herring spawn and all that, no, right? I'm correct on that, Paul?
Correct.
Yeah.
It may kick off any day, but I don't think it's going.
Okay.
You're not going to go have a fun day doing it.
Okay. What's your guys' way of dealing with hole jumpers?
Get used to it. I cuss them out if I feel like they're wrong, but
Yeah.
usually it's just part of it.
It is part of it. I like that answer. I cuss them out. What about you, Brooks?
I don't mind it. I just go run something else. I take it as a blessing. I wasn't even supposed to go there.
Okay, well, there you go. And that was one thing too with this tournament. A lot of you local guys, especially you older guys, you know each other's holes. A lot of you guys showed each other their, you might have showed Angler B a hole back in the past, and he might have showed you, another hole. And you guys share information. When it came down to this tournament, you guys was there any communication amongst the locals as to, hey, this is my spot, I'm going to go there first? Did you do any of that? And that's to you, Paul.
No, I just told Daryl to just stay above the bridge.
Okay.
Other than that, I mean,
You just had to take care of Daryl.
yeah,
That was
I knew
it.
what was coming with him.
I like that. Quick question for Scooter again. Right there, Andy Anderson.
Oh, there we are.
There you go, right there. All right, Scooter, jump on one more time there, boss. How do you constantly put 21 pounds in the boat each week on Lanier?
You'll have to ask your son.
Now you know who he is? Yeah, you didn't know it. You didn't know that? You have to ask your son.
Yeah.
No, but you do it. And I just want to ask you this. So we'll keep it simple so you ain't got to drop any juice. But is it more of a finesse game or a power game?
A little of both. You just have to stay focused and fish where they live.
Oh, good gosh. That is like the most broadest of strokes answer, but actually a smart answer right there. He's already learning not to give it up right there. So thanks for the heads up on Brooks' YouTube channel. Guys, go over there and like and subscribe it. He's a good kid, does a lot of good work. And I'm telling you, the content on it's good. I subscribe to it. I watch it. It isn't helping. Maybe it ain't Brooks' fault. Trust me at that. Paul will go buy a chainsaw. Let's see. When fishing a weight bait, what do you do when they're just slapping at it? What can you do to catch them? So if you're getting short strikes or slapping at that weight bait, what do you do, Paul?
I was jerking out of the water one time. If they're just slapping at it, knocking it around, or boil on it, miss it, I'll give it a quick jerk and try to get it to go on. I'll get it to go under, and a lot of times they'll lock it up. Then
just that little change going
just
under the water.
Get it out of the water.
Okay, getting that reaction. Get a reaction.
Because you're not going. They're just knocking it or boiling it and quit. You're not going to catch them anyhow.
So Mitchell Mullen says, talk about Paul getting upset. I've seen Rod stoning the floor of the boat. I don't say you get upset. I think you're passionate.
No, I get pissed. Dude. I just soon go to the bank and let's settle this.
I knew that was coming.
Go scratch it out on the bank. Huh?
All right, so Robert Bretz, my buddy in Pennsylvania, wants to know, and Brooks, I'm going to start with you on this. What's your largest fish, where and on what bait? Where'd you catch it, on what bait?
It was in Callaway Gardens in Pine Mountain, Georgia, and it was on swim jig, and it was just at 10 pounds.
Just that 10
But
pounds.
I don't count private lake fish, so my biggest fish in a lake is 9 pounds on Kentucky Lake.
On Kentucky Lake. Got you a couple subs, dude. You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I like that. All right, Paul, you've been fishing since Methuselah. What's your biggest fish, where, and on what?
I don't know how big it was. It was 11 and a half, 12 pounds come out your tube on jerk bait in November in the back of a pocket.
All right. Pull up Dylan's question. You guys have been great, and we ain't got but about 10 more minutes, so if you got a question, you better get it in. I'm keeping Paul up past his bedtime. I'm telling you right now. This is a thing that came up several times. When we were there filming, everybody's like, dude, all these big fish being weighed in at Laurel, this ought to be the place to fish in the next few days. Do you think all the fish weighed in at Laurel, especially the spotted bass, swim back down towards Browns Bridge? And I know you're not a biologist, but just how long do you think they stay in a given area?
I think they use like a highway. I believe they go. I'd sure like to think they go back below Browns Bridge. I'd hate to know they stay up there in that dirty water.
Yeah, and I think if nothing else, they go from that dirty water at least past out to the bridge that goes into Gainesville back to where it gets bigger water.
Well, I'm just scared they're going to die breathing all that mud up there, not get back down.
It is dirty. It's
I know,
so
it's
much
awful.
dirtier.
It's like sewage water up there.
What about you, Brooks?
I would hope that those fish make it back down the lake, but a lot of them, unfortunately, probably don't make it just from the weighing procedure and some of the stuff that goes on. But there's been some studies on smallmouth, and those fish, they can really travel if they want to. So I believe some of them do head back down there.
Do you think they'll just go back to the very next spot that all of a sudden looks comfortable? Like, you know, say you got a herring eater that he's a roamer. He's out there. In a second, he goes from Laurel Park down the little channel down there, crosses under that big bridge in Gainesville, gets out in some open water, and all of a sudden there's some herring. And he's like, oh, okay, this is good.
Yeah, I mean, spotted bass are extremely pelagic for most of the year, and they stay on bait. So, I mean, it could really depend. I mean, I think I have them figured out the day before, and they move somewhere.
Yeah.
So I'm not. I wouldn't feel afraid saying they can make it back down there.
Okay, absolutely. Pull up
Hey,
there.
if somebody picked you up and dropped you off in Fulton County, you'd find your way back home.
Just depends on if Becky's
No,
down
you
there.
would. You'd find your
Just
way back
depends
home.
on what I find down there, man. I'm a plate. No, I'm not, Amanda. I'm just kidding. If you're watching this, I would call my wife and say, "Come get me, please
Uber.
come get me."
They're going back home.
Oh, listen, that's a piece of salt down there in the pepper shaker. I'm gonna get up north as quick as I can. Derrico, question for both: when you want to try something new, do you do it when you know they're not biting, or when they're biting hot, or when it's tough? So, say you want to try a technique you've never done. Do you go when you know they're biting, or when it's tough? And I guess what he's trying to say is, if you go when it's tough, you really can see if that bait, if they're biting, they're probably gonna hit everything. I mean, what would you do? Or you just whatever it is,
I want to make sure the fish are biting somewhat, and before I'm gonna try something, because if they're not biting, they're just not biting. They ain't gonna bite nothing that I'm thinking ain't no good, and it might be. So I want them to be biting pretty good. I'm gonna start off with something I know they eat, and if they eat it, then I'm gonna try something new and give it at least 2 minutes.
2 minutes. I was gonna say you're not patient. You're not patient. No. That's right. What about you, Brooks?
So I got kind of a piece of advice for this. So if I'm trying something new, if you try it in the weekday and it works and you get confidence in it, and then you go try it on Saturday or Sunday, it's a completely different thing.
And why is that?
It has something to do with boat pressure, not pulling water. I don't know exactly why, but those fish behave so much differently on Saturday or Sunday. So if you find a technique that works Monday through Friday, and then you go pick it up on Saturday and it's still working, you might have something.
All right, there you go. Dylan Atkins, let's get a fish FNGO fish release tracking video. I know this sounds crazy, but I actually looked into that. Buying not a video where we could do the video, but actually to see if we could work with a DNR or something, just see if we could tag a couple of fish up around Laurel and just see where they were going. Actually, that crossed my mind during the tournament, and we might do that because we just do things like that. Scottster, this is kind of what you're talking about, Paul. Fish addicted to herring crack will not stay in dirty water because the herring can't survive dirty water.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, I like how you said that. Herring crack. All right, so there you go. Brian, let's see. Let's pull up this because he's got a statement right here. Pull that one. I believe that study he's talking about said something like 40% of the tagged fish were caught again in the area they came from. So that's
Yeah,
I mean, okay, so there's been studies.
That's probably right.
Laurel's,
the rest of them go right there close to the bridge.
yeah, they get down there. They're going to get that. They're going to look for that prime real estate like we all do. All right, guys, we got about 7 minutes. So if you got any other questions, you better get it in there pretty quick. So while I got a chance, Paul, the Touring Anglers Association going forward, is there a place for it?
Yes, 100%. The best thing ever happened for Brooks Anderson is, I believe, 4 locals made the cut. I was a afraid the worst thing could ever happen was it was going to be 8 local. If it fell, I felt like it was going to be 7 to 8 locals and 4 or 5 of the guys would make it. The way things were stacking up, it turned around to be just the opposite, which was for that series and Brooke and them. That was the best thing could possibly was saying, I don't want to go fish against the local guys. They got more knowledge. We're not getting no practice. Him giving now, I think it's going to be a day of practice before. It's going to be a great thing.
There is a place for it.
It's going somewhere.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. What do you think?
So, like he said, I fished the tournament for the experience, and I'm one of those guys. I said I was going to put up with $5,000, and I did that, and I wasn't going to back out of it. And whether I caught him or not, that's on me. I'm not doing it to prove to anyone that, hey, I'm this good on Lanier. I caught him in this tournament with all these pros.
Right.
I wanted to go fish that tournament with those guys on my home lake, and that's exactly what I did.
If you got the invitation, because I believe Alan said in the future they're going to be more invitation.
Mm-hmm.
If you got the invitation to fish another Touring Anglers Association tournament, would you go? And if you had the money, would you go?
Absolutely. It's a tournament that actually makes sense to fish because it's nearly 100% payback, which is something that no other organization does. So it's high stakes, but at the same time, it's logistically smart to go put your money in those tournaments.
Yeah, I believe I heard and don't quote me on this, but somewhere 40 to 45% of the pros in either Bass or MLF, I don't remember which one, that money goes to the organization.
Yep.
And on this tournament, he took $5,000. Alan took $5,000 out to pay for the guy that did the weigh-in. Pardon, I've forgotten his name right now. Again, it's been a long day. Other than that, every single dime went back. And I remember somebody on one of our reels on Facebook put the comment in, the tournament director got it, or the guy running the tournament got his $15,000 and he's done. This is a one-time thing. And then luckily, you guys in the comment section on these videos, sometimes you can police themselves, and somebody actually just did the math. And that guy went, oh, it really was basically 100% payback tournament.
Yeah, they laid it out for him.
It cost him money
It did.
to do that.
It did.
Because every penny was paid back.
Yeah, it did. This is a Dream Mountains guy.
Who paid for the lie detector? Who paid for the house? All that wasn't free.
That's right. Bless Emil's heart. They had to pull one guy out at the end.
And I knew it was going to be
and Emil got pulled out, Emil Wagner, and he had a date. He had a date that night, so he had to spend another hour or so with the lie detector test. Are there any more questions before I wrap this up? I don't think so. So, all right. So, Paul, listen, I tell you what, most requested person I have ever had in our history here at Fish North Georgia to come back and do an episode. And I know listen, I know you're an ornery old guy, but I know that's got to make you feel pretty good inside that a lot of people have a lot of respect for you and what you do. So regardless of this tournament and the results, I know you didn't get the results you wanted.
No.
But a lot of people respect the knowledge, and everybody cannot believe just how forthcoming you are when you get on this thing. There's something about a microphone.
Don't have many more years, so why not?
Hey, listen, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I'm glad I've made a friend with you. And Brooks, you got the future ahead of you. So, what's your plans in the future coming up? Once you get out of college, what you going to try to pursue?
So I'm going to fish the Toyota Series through MLF the next year and just kind of feel it out and see where it takes me. And then obviously still fish the little fun local stuff around here. It's always fun to do that. But I aspire to be able to travel and do it.
Oh, okay. That's good. Last question of the night. Well, actually, there's two, and this is it. I'm going to cut it off. Had this tournament taken place in June after the spawn and the herring spawn, what would the daily weight need to be for an angler to make the cut? What do you guess? And I think it would, this is after the spawn. It would be much lower. Take the bed fishing out of it.
14 and a half, 15.
15 pounds.
Yeah.
That sounds about right. You agree with that?
I'm right about there, especially with no waypoints. It'd be interesting.
It would be. And again, not every tournament that the Touring Anglers Association is going to do is going to fall in April. So he's got big plans. Last question of the night. Grant Carmichael wants to know, what's your favorite yum bait for hole jumping? Oh, we got to smile at him. What is it? What's your favorite yum bait for hole jumping?
Batteries.
Batteries. Does that do the job?
That does the job.
That does the job. If not, we got these plug knockers up here. They work well. They work well. So, guys, again, hey, listen, this has been a fantastic episode. You guys in the comment section absolutely did your job tonight. You came with it. You stayed with us the whole time. I appreciate you. Next Thursday night, Emil Wagner and Kaz Anderson will be here. You're going to get 2 more perspectives about this tournament. And I hope you guys learned something. I know I did. And also next Tuesday night, we're going to have on the Tuesday nighter, we're going to have a special hunting episode. So all you guys out there that are into turkey hunting, I'm going to have one of those for you next Tuesday night. So again, hey, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And we appreciate you guys. Until then, we'll see you.